My name is Josh Sheehan. I live in Minden, Nevada, and I brought the Buzzard's Luck. The neck is from like a 36 VL, and this neck piece and the seat post are kind of what started the whole bike for me. And the chevrons that the factory used to do back then, I just really spoke to me. I love the attention to detail they had back then. So I utilized those two pieces, and the original frame you can see right here, normally the backbone's curved and it dives in, but I wanted that kind of real high and tight look to it, Frisco chopper style, real narrow. So we cut the backbone out and we ended up putting the curve back in the country bar, just to kind of leave that feel for it, but also to frame this small motor. Is the height of this motor is like 14 inches or something like that. It's real small from the motor mounts up. So if you leave a lot of room up top here, there's a lot of air gap, man. It just doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't look right. So we made it to fit. We tied it all in here. I worked on this with my buddy Kyle at Paco. He's got a bike in the show here too. But we're, like I said, use the neck post, use the neck, use the seat post, and then pretty much built everything else. We put panhead axle plates on it so that I could run the mechanical drum brake on it. It's a K model Magnum, so it's a 45 lower end that we stroked, and it's now at like 56 cubic inch. And then we put the K model heads on. Really cool lines on everything. It's small, compact race motor, built for speed.
So you put the chevron in on the front suspension too?
We did, yep.
And then it's like a reverse springer, or what do you call that?
Well, back in the day they called these leading link front ends, and they kind of went by the wayside. People just stopped doing them. There was an issue. The problem with this style of front end is that having the springs down low with nothing connecting the two up top, the axle would kind of walk going through corners. So your wheel would move side to side and it would rub against the down tubes on the fork. So, I really like the look of the front end. So I decided to try and make it work and add a little bit of functionality to it. And so this crossbar right here was my answer to the problem. So I have my spring perches here, and then the top crossbar here. And what this does, it's pinched in between two bolts that are attached to the spring rods, and this keeps the spring rods moving in unison. So it eliminates that problem of walking. It walks a little bit when you really crank on it right now, but I've done quite a few hot laps on this thing, and it handled just fine through the twisties where I'm at. So I feel like I solved it. So that was cool. Yeah. The trees, made these laser cut out the trees, and if you look, it's this front end. It's no bigger than my fist. That's about as skinny as I could go on this. The clearances on that wheel that's about it. This headlight here, that's like it's an old radio, like 50s era. They call it the eyebrow light, and my dad did all the engraving on this bike. My dad, David Sheehan. He does a lot of high-end Rolexes, guns and knives and stuff, and so I feel honored that I'm the only motorcycle person that he does engraving for. Thanks, Dad. He turns away everybody else that comes at him now, because it's just such a large canvas for him. He's used to being under a microscope and really detailed stuff. So David Sheehan, all the engraving on that. The risers were the old cast iron risers, solid risers. And I took those and I took an inch out of the middle of that just to narrow it down so it would fit with everything. And then the bars were actually an old an old Flanders style bar. I took, several inches out of that and really narrowed it down. And the grips, I hand pounded all the grips and to match all the pegs and the foot controls and everything. So I just sit there with the ball peen and make it work. Internal throttle, pipes. I got this pipe kit from the guys over at Paco. They sent this to me, and real high and tight. I built this and modeled it after the Frisco style choppers, and back in the day they would raise the pipes, raise the foot controls, and get everything real tight and narrow, so that you imagine the streets of San Francisco, man. Those guys were splitting lanes and then running to the right side of the cars with the real high curbs in San Francisco, so they need everything up so they wouldn't run into anything, So Frisco style. We ended up putting a 4-speed transmission on this bike because the old 45, the Magnums, the 3-speed transmission that was on those bikes, notorious turds. They're not going to do anything if you're trying to actually race. So put the 4-speed on it, get up to speed. Moving back, oil bag mounted and molded into the frame, and then I took one of the lowbrow fenders and I put some side panels on it. I did some molding around the tip there just to kind of make that center line flow into the outside and all the way back down the fender mounts there. The idea was, the old race bikes, with all the weight that they would strip off of things, be able to go faster, basically. It really falls in line with what we do with choppers today, at least. So I tried to combine both of them. So you have like the race back half with the Frisco style front half, and it's kind of like a reverse mullet. You got the party up front and the business in the back on this one. So
got like a flat skid plate on the bottom too.
Yeah, that's the 45 frames, they had this style right here, and the VLs, and you can see the bottom of this seat post right here. It was cut off right here, so what we had to do is make the plate here, and then added a section of tubing here, run everything down, and then make our motor mounts and give it that flat bottom. Just a tip of the hat to those dudes back then. So. Oh, and then the tank, Johnny Vasco back in the day. I'm originally from Santa Cruz, and he's just a local legend of ours, and this was his style. He would run that kind of the V-style gas tank from the bottom, and so again, that's just kind of a nod to that guy and what he's done. I'm a huge chopper history nerd, so none of this stuff that anybody is doing here today would be possible without those who paved the way before us. So just another nod to him and his wonderful family.